Welcome to Small Steam Engine Management. This is part 1. Playing with miniature steam engines is a fascinating hobby. To avoid problems or injury, there are some things that you need to know. This series is a collection of useful information showing good practices. Small steam engines and boilers can be very dangerous if used incorrectly. In this compilation video series, I will address a lot of common questions. All mechanical devices need running or breaking in. In order to do this, the engine needs to be run at a controlled speed with plenty of lubrication. I cannot stress how important the quality of lubrication and the type of lubrication is. If you use the wrong type of oil, you will do more damage. If you use oil additives, the engine will not run in properly. I normally use simple machine oil. A good quality machine oil such as lathe spindle oil is ideal. Don't use motor oil. Motor oil needs to be warm to function, and it's too thick to get to where you need it on the bearings. Even though the metal looks smooth, it isn't at all. Later on I'll show you a magnified view. Just to digress for a moment, this is a quick tip. When using slotted grub screws, always make sure that the slot is below the surface level, because otherwise if you put pressure on the slot with a screwdriver, one half of the slot normally breaks off, and then you end up with a broken grub screw, and it may be difficult to get it out. So make sure that the grub screw is definitely below surface level, which supports the sides of the slot. This is a Stuart Turner James Coombs engine, and it's a very weird engine really, with the crosshead above the cylinder and a very complicated linkage from the eccentric to the valve chest. And one problem that I've had with this engine is that the eccentric is still a little tight, and this is causing the valve links to kick a little bit and make a slight noise. But after a while this will disappear. As I mentioned earlier on, the purpose of running in is to smooth out the surface of the metal, and if you look at this magnified section of a piece of metal, you'll see that it's awfully rough under a microscope. It looks like a lot of hills and valleys, and the real purpose of running in is to remove the hills. You still need the valleys in the metal. That will hold the lubricating oil. A good indicator of the status of the running in procedure is the colour of the lubricating oil that is exuding from most of the parts of the model. Here you see down this green part, nasty black oil. This is oil mixed with the metal residue from the bearing. And this is nothing to worry about on a new engine or an engine that's had some new parts fitted. But if this continues into the life of the engine, then something is wrong and needs investigating. If the oil's coming from the main bearings, it could be either that the caps are too tight, putting too much pressure on the bearing, or the bearings got scored and is re-wearing itself back into play. Here you can see some black oil around the gland nut of this beam engine. This is because the gland's been recently fitted and it's quite tight. After a while the black oil disappeared. Looking at the exhaust pipe, you will see black oil coming out of there too. This should happen for a while, particularly as the piston does a lot of work and wears itself into the bore. If your steam engine has a piston that's packed with graphited yarn, also known as soft packings, you will get some black residue like this until it all settles down. With this James Coombs model engine, after a couple of hours running, the exhaust residue became very clear. The oil that came out was the same colour as the oil that went in. But steam engines like this are better run at a scale type speed, more like you see here, nice and steady. Although sometimes it is good fun to open the regulator wide and watch the engine spin away. This has a governor, but the linkage is quite ineffective. It does not shut off the steam properly, or in this case compressed air. An engine of this type going like this, it nearly dances off the bench. Usually when I've finished rebuilding an engine, I run it at warp speed for a few seconds like this, and I don't recommend this, but it does show you that the engine's in good order. If anything was wrong, it would really show up at this speed. But don't do this for a prolonged period, because the oil will be spun off by centrifugal force and you'll end up with dry bearings very quickly. This engine is a very old Stuart S50, and it's got some play in the main bearings and some play in the big ends. But by carefully adjusting the valve timing, for early admission, it cushions the blow to the piston and the engine doesn't rattle so much. It really needs the bearings bushing. The problem being that with an S50, even though it looks like it's got proper plumber blocks and proper bearings, these are simply solid cast iron, but the original builder of this engine machined off the cast iron bolts and fitted proper bolts. I think if I'd have been doing it, I would have split the bearing at the same time. But anyway, to fix this, it just needs phosphor bronze bushers fitting and maybe a crank pin too. I'm not going to really bother with this. It's such a small engine and it runs okay for what it is. Most of these end up on a shelf anyway as a display item. The point of showing this is to illustrate how important it is to have a crankshaft, a crank web and a flywheel sat in bearings that are perfectly parallel and a good fit to the crankshaft. Some Stuart engines, such as the Victoria, the James Coombs and the Beam engine, use a system whereby one end of the crankshaft is supported on the main bed casting and the other end is supported on a pedestal. And before you go any further, it's essential to make sure that the pedestal and the bed casting are in perfect alignment. Rather than build the engine loose on the bench, it's a good idea to bolt the thing down. And before you make any other parts for the engine, make sure that this crankshaft spins and feels really good when you turn it. If the crankshaft is out of alignment, things like this, the eccentrics and the water pump drive, not to mention the connecting rod big end, will all be out of alignment and the engine will not run properly. Like all steam engines, it will turn over, but it won't sound too good. And it will, of course, wear in after a while and stop clunking quite as badly. But this is not really what engineering is about. So whether you're building an engine from scratch or repairing one, build it in modular form. Start from the bottom up. Remember, if the crankshaft isn't right, no other part of the engine will be right either. If you've been watching my other videos of these engines and others running, you'll see that they run fairly quietly. When you're working on a steam engine on the bench, try and blank off the exhaust with a filter. This is a piece of rag with some rubber cord round it. This stops the oil from getting into the atmosphere and you subsequently breathing it in. Another good thing to do, that isn't shown on many of the drawings, is always drill a hole in the bottom of the eccentric. This allows an Allen key to go into the eccentric sheave, and it's much easier to adjust the eccentric, assuming of course that you're using eccentric sheaves that have a grub screw somewhere in the sheave holding it to the crankshaft. The other option is that you have to take the eccentrics off to make adjustments, and after a while you'll slip into a coma doing this. Even simple Stephenson's link valve gear always surprises me how well it works, and the fact that you can bang it into reverse straight away whilst the engine's still under power. It really is essential to make sure that nothing binds on the expansion link. The expansion link is the oval shaped thing in the middle. If the valve fork binds on the expansion link, when you move the lever across, you're likely to smash the expansion link. I've done this a few times in the past, so I know what I'm speaking about. On some engines the valve events are complex, on others simple. On the James Coombs engine, the Beam engine and a Victoria engine, the valve linkage to the slide valve in the steam chest is very complicated, so make sure if you're building one of these engines that your engineering tolerances are pretty good. They don't want to come loose and they don't want to flop about. This is a Stuart Beam engine running at a more realistic speed. The Beam engine and the James Coombs engine use the same flywheel, the same eccentric and the same crank web. And what they also have in common is that if any of these components are not made right, the engine sounds like a pneumatic drill and knocks all the time. This is an engine I built about 30 years ago, a Stuart Victoria, and it still doesn't leak after all these years, apart from the odd drip from the valve packing that needs replacing because it's old. And finally, never ever over tighten any of the nuts or bolts holding the steam chest cover onto the steam chest or the cylinder head onto the cylinder. You will shear them off, and then you will have a problem. Thanks for watching, I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists you can actually watch the videos back to back.